LEGO Castle has had a fairly quiet year in 2024, so it's got me thinking, what was the best year for the theme? There's a few that immediately spring to mind for me personally, so let's get right into what I think are the best years for LEGO Castle. Firstly, we have to talk about 2008, or as I like to call it, the year of the orc. In terms of classic castle stuff, there really wasn't much in 2008, it was pretty lacking, but we did get 3 absolutely killer orc sets that I am super nostalgic for. Those being the Troll Assault Wagon, the Troll Battle Wheel, and of course the Troll Warship. These 3 sets all have very wacky designs that are very unique to the Troll faction and were all new ideas for the castle theme. I know a lot of older fans of LEGO Castle hate Fantasy Era because of this, but for me, especially as a kid, these sets were just so creative and memorable. I had the Assault Wagon, which was definitely the weakest of the 3 sets, but it was still such a cool set. In my opinion, the Battle Wheel is a perfect example of what I loved about the Trolls. It's such an out-of-the-box idea, but it totally works for them, and this set is one that I would love to own one day. It has that cartoonish flair about it that worked so well for the orcs as the villains of Fantasy Era. I just love this set a ton. Them running on the wheel to trample the knights in front of them is such a cool look. I love this set. I really gotta buy it one day. And then finally, we of course have the mighty Troll Warship. This set gave us 2 beautifully printed sail pieces with the orc sigil proudly on display. The boat's actual design is very simple, but it still has some of that orc design cues with the bones peeking out of the sides of the hull, and the big war drum in the middle of the boat looks great. I love that they also included the big fig troll who's playing the drum in the middle of the boat, and obviously getting a molded dragon in this set is just the cherry on top. There's a reason that this set goes for well over $200 at this point complete. It is without a doubt one of the best castle sets from the 2000s. Now, there is one more set from 2008 that I'd like to briefly mention here, and that's the Tower Raid. In this set, you got a very simple tower for the Crown Knights and a Troll Siege Tower. The builds for both of these are nothing crazy, but I adore these battle style sets where you get a defending army and an attacking one. LEGO's done quite a few of these style sets over the years, and they are just the best way to get a couple of figs from both factions so that you can create your own battles with them. So that's 2008. I don't think you can call this the best year of all time because it is lacking any real full castle, but it's a year that I knew I had to include in this video.
The Black Knight.
Who's that?
'Twas a black day when the Black Knight challenged Legoland Castle.
The next year I'd like to talk about is 1984. Before 1984, LEGO Castle was a factionless wasteland filled with generic-looking knights that lacked any real personality or uniqueness from one another. But starting in 1984, we would start to get the factions that we have come to love today, like the Falcons and the Lion Knights. There were quite a few sets that came out this year, but I just want to focus in on 4 of them. The smallest of those is the first ever blacksmith, simply titled Blacksmith Shop. It is a very simple, tiny little forge that's attached to a section of a castle wall. This is such a simple idea for a set, but one that I absolutely love. It's easily recognizable as a blacksmith's forge, and it includes a nice amount of accessories to go with the figures. And obviously it started LEGO's obsession with making blacksmith sets, which I have to love. But arguably the best thing about this set is that it included a couple of Technic holes on the wall, which meant that you could connect it to all of the other sets that came out this year. That of course brings me to the next set I want to talk about, set 6061 Siege Tower. This set gave you a small section of a wall for the Lion Knights to defend, and a siege tower for the Black Falcons. Obviously, building techniques have come a really long way since this set released, but I still think this one holds up pretty well. It has a simple design that has, in my opinion, just kept it timeless. But again, my favorite part is that you could connect this one up with the blacksmith and even make your own walls and towers to create your own castle. The modularity of this is just ripe for customization, and I would love to see LEGO make a modern series of sets just like this. Anyways, now the final sets of note from 1984 are these 2 castles. The Black Falcon castle here is one of the most beloved sets from the classic era, and for good reason. It's got a very simple layout, and it kind of set the standard for pretty much every castle that would come after it. This is just a very solid looking castle, and you kind of can't fault it, especially for how old it is. The other castle to come out of 1984 was the Lion Knight's Castle. This was actually one of the sets that the designers of the 90th anniversary castle cited as an inspiration. I think you can see that with the main tower in the front here. You've got the portcullis and the drawbridge combo. That is very similar to the one that we got in the 90th anniversary castle. This whole section of the build is definitely the best part of the castle, and I can see why the designers wanted to modernize that part of the set. It's got a very distinct look to it, and it gives this castle a highly recognizable silhouette compared to the Falcon one that we just looked at. In my opinion, 1984 was a very good year for Castle, and it set in stone a lot of the design elements that we kind of take for granted now. But it's still not quite the best year of them all. That title belongs to 1992.
The forces of Wolfpack had ruled too long. Only one could stop this tyranny, the Lego Maniac.
Forsooth, it is I! Set sail, mighty Black Knights, enlighten these dark...
1992, in my eyes, is the best year for LEGO Castle as a whole for a few reasons. Number one, it was the year of variation. You had sets that came with Black Falcons, the Wolfpack, Black Knights, and even a couple of Lion Knights. Very rarely do we get a theme with that many different factions and minifigures, especially not ones as well loved as the Wolfpack and the Black Falcons. But this year didn't just come with a good selection of figures, it also had a killer lineup of sets. First, we have the Sea Serpent, which was the largest medieval boat set ever released at the time. It came with both Black Knights and Black Falcons, and it also had a beautifully printed sail piece for the boat. The shaping of the boat is limited by the blocky parts of the time, but I think it still holds up really nicely today. It's actually the only classic era set that I personally own. To me, this is just a very charming looking set, and it's at the top of my list of sets that I want to see LEGO remake in the modern style. It's pretty much all you want from a set, it's got a sizable amount of knights, and a really solid looking build for an affordable price. You really can't beat it. If you're someone like me that wants to dip their feet into collecting the classic castle sets from the 80s and 90s, but you're put off by how expensive the castles are, I really think you should look into getting this set. You can find it for more or less $70 complete, which granted is expensive, but in my opinion, this is a really decent way to kind of get into the classic sets and see if you like them. Anyways, rant aside, next up we have the much adored two Wolfpack sets of 1992. The Wolfpack Renegades cart is a very simple looking build, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it does just about everything right. It was an affordable set that gave you a couple of figs with a bunch of accessories and a really solid little build. Is the cart blocky? Yeah, it's pretty blocky, but it had a really cool false bottom play feature that is just so much fun. This isn't the jaw-dropping build that you'd expect from the best year of LEGO Castles, but it's just a really good set that if it was made today, it would be incredibly popular with Castle fans. Now, the other Wolfpack set is exactly what I'd expect from the best year of LEGO Castle. This castle, or fortress, whatever you want to call it, has such a memorable design. The bridge across the water into an island fortress is such a simple but effective look that has inspired 1,000 different people to make their own mocks of the set. The red tiled off roofs and the black walls of the fortress are so visually striking, especially compared to the many gray castles that we already had. There's no surprise that this set is as popular as it is. Again, I would love to see LEGO remake this set in the modern style because it would just look so good with modern pieces that we have available now. Here's to hoping LEGO makes a Wolfpack set next year with the new minifigure that we just got. It seems like a no-brainer to me. And finally, we have what in my opinion is the absolute best castle from the classic era. 6086 Black Knight's Castle. Here we have all the hallmarks of a great LEGO castle. We've got a raised base plate, a ton of knights and horses, and of course, a uniquely shaped castle. One of the biggest problems with a lot of LEGO castles is that they kinda all look the same. And I think you know what I mean when I say that. There is a formula that LEGO found to make a decent looking castle, and they've stuck with that for a really long time. This same formula or layout worked great in the early years when it was still fresh and new, but the problem is that over the years, the style has kinda just dated itself and become boring. Not any fault of the original design, it's just how time works. This castle, however, still uses that same basic formula of 4 walls and a couple of towers, but it adds its own style and flavor that makes it stand out against the rest. For one, the color scheme. It's all black with a beautiful peppering in of yellow and red here and there. That just looks so nice. These yellow printed Tudor walls in the back of the castle are fantastic looking and honestly still work fine today. Then of course you have the variation in the actual buildings. The front has an imposing rectangular tower, while the corners of the build have some nice curved round towers. The differently shaped buildings here add way more visual interest to the silhouette of the castle compared to a set like the Black Falcon one from earlier. This set is one that I would love to have in my collection, and of course, this is another set that LEGO absolutely needs to remake someday. The Black Knight minifigures are well overdue for a remake, and this set's build has the potential to even rival the 90th anniversary castle if they do it justice. And that's why I think 1992 was the best year for LEGO Castle. I'm sure you could make the argument for another year, but for me personally, 1992 just had the best variety of sets and factions. Please let me know which year you think was the best in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
The LEGO System Castle Collection. Each sold separately, only from LEGO.